Hi everyone, I'm so sorry that we were having so many issues trying to get together on Zoom. I sent a Class Dojo message with further instructions describing what you can do to hopefully log in the future. So fingers crossed that works. If not, then we can just solely move to YouTube quick lessons. So here is the lesson we are doing today. It is a reading comprehension lesson on the book Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. And here's how this will work. So in order to do this lesson along with me at home, you will need a writing utensil and a blank piece of paper. So to begin, take your piece of paper and with your writing utensil, I want you to draw a T. So you should have 4 separate boxes on your paper. And then you should have the words who, what, where, and why written down as well. So I'll give you a moment. You can either pause this video or you can work alongside with me when it comes to completing the assignment. Now, when you are done at the end of the video, you can either send me a picture of your paper through Class Dojo or to my email, however you would like to do it. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and get into the book. This is called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, and it is written by William Steig. All right, so as I go through reading the story, just like how I would on the rug, we will stop at the different points to discuss the questions that I have asked, and we'll see how this goes. All right. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Eghorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. If you don't know what a pebble is a small rock. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement and the rain that felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. To his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't gradually stop, as rain usually does. It ceased. That means it stopped altogether. As soon as he said it, the rain stopped. The drops vanished on the way down. The clouds disappeared. Everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if rain had never existed. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly. That means he's never had a wish that was granted as quickly as this one. It struck him that magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be in the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing, holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black, there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. Okay, so boys and girls, my first question to you is, who is the main character? Normally, we can kind of tell who the main character is by looking at the cover. However, this story is a little bit different. So let's go back and look at some of the pictures. As I'm flipping through the pictures, ask yourself, who is in these pictures? What do you think? We'll get to the answer in a second, okay? What a lucky day this is, thought Sylvester. From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, and anybody at all can have everything anybody wants. He wished the sunshine back into the sky, and he wished a wart on his left hind fetlock would disappear. And it did. And he started home, eager to amaze his father and mother with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. All right, friends. So who do you notice on all of these pages? Is it the same little donkey? Do you remember what his name was? If you don't, listen closely. As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind some tall grass. So, who is he? Who is he? His name is Sylvester. And Sylvester goes here, because Sylvester is the main character. So I'm going to help you spell Sylvester so you can write the same thing on your paper. Now, what I want you to do is this. With this assignment, I will help you with most of it. However, you can either choose to write Sylvester is the main character in a full sentence and put it in your box, or you can write Sylvester and draw me a picture of Sylvester, whichever one works for you. It's just like the assignments that we would do on the rug. So again, who is Sylvester? He is the main character. All right, let's move on. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and mother. He could have wished the lion to turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a gnat. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and couldn't think carefully. I wish I were a rock, he said. And he became a rock. A rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and went away. Confused, perplexed, bewildered. I saw that little donkey clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy, he muttered. There was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill. Here's our donkey friend, Sylvester. With the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground. Here it is. I know it's really hard to see at home, but there it is. And he was unable to pick it up. Oh, how I wish I was myself again, he thought. But nothing happened. Had he been touching the pebble to make the magic work, then there was nothing he could do about it. So in order for the magic pebble to work, he has to be able to touch the pebble. However, rocks don't have arms or hands, do they? So the magic was not working. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. Being helpless, he felt hopeless. He imagined all of the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny, but what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with so many stars. Okay, so I think this is a good stopping spot to talk about the what. What is the problem in the story? So we already talked about Sylvester being the main character, and Sylvester has a big problem. When Sylvester saw a lion, what did he wish to be? A rock. So, in my what box, I will be writing Sylvester is a rock. And because he's a rock, he cannot wish himself back into being a donkey. So on your board or your paper, you can write this, Sylvester is a rock, but I want you to write either a complete sentence about Sylvester being a rock and not being able to make a wish, or you can write or draw a picture of Sylvester being a rock and the little magic pebble next to him. It's up to you, whatever you are most comfortable with. All right, let's move on. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night, wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up in the morning. But he didn't. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. Both longed to have their dear son with them. I will never scold Sylvester again as long as I live, said Mrs. Duncan, no matter what he does. At dawn, they went about inquiring of all the neighbors. So that means that they went asking all of their neighbors if they had seen Sylvester. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. All right, so let's go ahead and answer the where on our paper. So this story has not said, well, I guess it did kind of say, didn't it? It did say where they lived on the first page. It says Eggcorn Road in Oatsdale. And you can write Eggcorn Road on your paper, and I'll show you how to spell it. You can write this on your paper. However, please use a complete sentence like Sylvester and his family lived on Eggcorn Road, or Sylvester lived on Eggcorn Road, something like that. But if you were going to draw a picture, let's kind of see what picture you would draw. Let's look at the cover. Do you think that this is a city or a town? And what are some clues to help you answer that question? I'll give you a second to really look at this cover. A city or a town? What do you think? Okay, so let's talk about what a city is. A city is just like Tucson, where you live. There are tall buildings, lots of cars, lots of concrete, many apartments, many houses, many parks, a mall, things like that. Do you see any of those kinds of things in this photo? Now, let's talk about what a town is. A town is much smaller than a city. A town doesn't have as many people. It might be a little bit more spread apart, meaning that there aren't houses right next door to each other. There's houses, but they're a little bit more further spread out from each other. What do you think? So keep that in mind if you are deciding to draw a picture for your where answer. All right, let's move on. All of the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock, tree, and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but found not a scent of him. They sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. After a month of searching the same places over and over and inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened and that they would probably never see their son again. Though all the time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often, and when he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt like he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. So, an endless sleep is kind of like what bears do during the winter. You know how bears hibernate? That's kind of what Sylvester did. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. Take a look at this picture. Is anyone looking for Sylvester anymore? And has any time passed between this picture and this picture? Do you see the difference? Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that way. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they had stored up. One day, a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Again, do you see anyone searching for Sylvester? It feels like they've given up. Then the snow melted, and the earth warmed up in the spring sun, and things budded. Leaves were on the trees again. Flowers showed their young faces. And there's Sylvester. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. Let's try to live happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." So they went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here!" But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was a stone. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. Alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. "Sylvester would have loved it for his collection." He put the pebble on the rock. Now, that is a very important part of this story. Sylvester's dad found the pebble and he put it on the rock. Sylvester is this rock. And the whole reason why Sylvester couldn't turn back into a donkey was because he could not touch the rock. So, is Sylvester touching the rock now? Yeah. The rock and the pebble are touching each other now. Let's see if some magic happens. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know," she said, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am! Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If he had only realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. "Oh, how I wish he was here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too?" she asked him. He looked at her as if to say, "How can you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sadness. "I wish I was myself too," said Sylvester. And in less than an instant, he was! You can imagine the scene that followed: the embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, the fond exclamations. Oh. So, remember I told you that the father putting the magic pebble on the rock was a big deal? It was such a big deal because that's all Sylvester needed. He needed some part of the rock to touch the magic pebble. And his own dad made that happen for him. So when he said, "Oh, how I wish I was myself," boom, it happened. When they had eventually calmed down a little bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it, but really, for now, what more could they wish for? They had all that they wanted. The end. Okay, we have one more question to answer, and that is our why question. So when we were in school, I would ask you, why did the author write this book? So, thinking about Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, let's ask ourselves this question. Is this book real? Did this story really happen? Okay. let's ask ourselves another question. Is this story fake? Is this story made up? And why? How do you know that this story is made up? I'll give you a second to think about that. Okay, so the very, very first clue that should tell you this story is made up is, do donkeys wear clothes? And do pigs wear clothes? Do donkeys turn into rocks when they find a magic pebble? Probably not. So this story is fiction. It's fake. Now, why do you think the author wrote this fictional story? Was it to teach you a lesson, or was it just for fun? So here's what I want you to do. This is the only box that requires a sentence, and I will even give you a sentence starter. So here is the sentence starter. You will copy it down, and then you will fill in the blank with your own answer, okay? The author wrote this story. Okay, here it is. You can pause the video, or you can write it down as I explain. With these blanks, I want you to tell me that the author wrote this book to teach me a lesson, or the author wrote this book for fun. Let me know. So again, here are the directions. Each box requires a response. Now, that response can either be a complete sentence using the things that we have spoken about, or it can be a drawing. However, if you are doing all of the drawings, you will need to write a sentence for the Y box because you can't really draw this. So you can pick. This is our first lesson altogether, so it's something that we've done a lot in school. It should not be super difficult, and you should remember doing something like this all together on the rug. So when you are done, have your parents take a picture and either send it to me on Class Dojo or through my email. What I'll even do to make it easier is I will post this on the portfolio link on Class Dojo. I'll make it like a new assignment, and you can post your picture there. All right, friends. The next time that we will do this, it'll be on a different topic. Maybe it'll be math, maybe it'll be writing, maybe it'll be reading again, but with a different objective. We'll see. So I will see you on Wednesday, whether it's through Zoom or on YouTube. Whatever works for you works for me. I miss you all so much. Stay safe. Good night. Bye.